Hey everyone, Matt here. It is Wednesday. That is the main event time where we go over our main topics for the week. So if you're watching or listening, this is the meat and potatoes of the episode. If we happen to have any news to discuss as well, that's where we'll talk about it here. For the full episode, check us out on Saturdays. Thanks for watching and listening. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to another episode of Stack Your Points. As always, I'm Matt from the Matt Clausen YouTube channel, joined by RJ from Do You Take Cards. RJ, how are you today?
I'm doing well. The Packers won over the weekend, and that's the only sport I have to care about right now because baseball's over, right?
Baseball does not exist.
Okay.
Unless we're taking bets, in which case baseball might exist, but then Rob Manfred will remind us that baseball does not exist right now. Tariq, how are you, sir, from Reek's Rewards?
Good, pretty solid. Don't want to talk about football. Saints and my Roadrunners suck. But I got basketball, and the Spurs are off to a decent start at least. So I got that going for me.
And finally back from his latest adventures and telling us lately about a travel subscription service, Lani from Call Me Lani. How are you, sir?
I'm feeling good, and I'm glad to be back. I feel like I've been gone forever. I know it's only been 2 episodes, but still, good to see you guys. Missed you guys. Missed all y'all listeners and followers and all your. I have been watching and reading the comments. RJ can attest to that. I've been commenting back when I can in my spotty Wi-Fi. Oh, and please, nobody come at me about the Bears and the Commanders game because you think I'm upset, but I'm actually, my dad's from DC, so I'm actually a Commanders fan, and it was a good game in my opinion. So thank you for that.
Look, all I can possibly say on that one is finish the play and don't taunt before you, I don't know, finish the play. If you finish the play, then what happened won't happen. But again, none of you are Islanders fans, and you don't know pain.
All I'm going to say is I can't wait to watch Urinating Trees this week in Sports Ball on Wednesday because Tyreek Stevenson is definitely going to be locale of the week for that because it was beautiful.
Yes. But again, none of you know pain. We're going to move over to our news roundup and topics. We do have 2 pieces of news that we wanted to cover. One really quickly, Capital One has brought back the Savor name after discontinuing it in July. The Capital One Savor One has now been rebranded the Capital One Savor Card. It keeps all of the same features, and apparently it is losing the Uber One membership and credit next month, which is a bit of a problem for Capital One, but they'll deal with that later. Thoughts on Capital One renaming the Savor One to the Savor? It seems that they wanted to that the higher annual fee card wasn't getting much play because the Savor One is just really good, was just too good. RJ, any thoughts here?
I don't know what Capital One is doing. I don't think Capital One knows what Capital One is doing. They're trying to merge with Discover, and it's not going to happen this year. So I think they're just moving a pawn back and forth on a chessboard. I don't know. I genuinely don't know what Capital One is doing right now.
There you go. Lani, any thoughts here? Or are you going to duck this one out?
I will actually add a sweet comment.
Oh, here we go.
And I don't really care what they name the card because nothing about the card has actually changed but the name and the Uber One thing. But we already knew that was coming. So not necessarily new news, but big whoop, not a big deal. So congrats, y'all. Hit the refresh button, order a new card with the new name on it or whatever.
I don't want the new card. It looks terrible. Tariq, any thoughts here on Savor from Savor One?
I'm not gonna say too much on this. I'm gonna save some thoughts, but I will say this thing. It feels like Capital One is just doing things for the sake of doing things. I think they're just seeing like other banks making moves, like American Express is revamping their card lines. Chase is actually making tiny efforts on like the Sapphire Preferred and things like that. And I think Capital One just wants to join the party and do something.
I just hear they like the idea of darkness retreats around Alexandria. But there we go. Lani, what can you tell us about Chase travel protection changes?
Yeah, so Chase, especially with it affecting the Sapphire line, the Sapphire Preferred and Reserve, primarily the Reserve, um, recently made some travel protections changes where the quantity, quality has not changed, but how you qualify has. And what I mean by that is now, if you're going to book a trip in any way, shape, or form to qualify for your travel Chase's travel protections, 100% of that trip has to be done on your Sapphire card, period. No more split bookings, anything like that, if you want or need to qualify. Now, this is good and bad for two reasons. I'm going to start off with the good, not the good. It's okay. And what I mean by okay is that every other card does this, every single other one. So, especially for your Amex Platinum lovers, a lot of y'all don't read your terms and conditions. So, let me go ahead and break this down for you. But if you were to book a vacation, let's just use a hotel, for example, and had a down payment, and then you were to finish off that payment before you checked in or at the end of your trip using a different card. So, I did the down payment on my Platinum card. And then I used a different card when my CSR, for example, when I got to the hotel so I can get my 3X or vice versa. Amex says you're not covered in that scenario because you split the payment. Now, I just got off of a cruise ship, and that's a really great example because most people book cruises 12 months, 18 months, a year and a half, 2 years out at a time, where you put on a small down payment and you can make as many payments as you want towards that cruise as long as you have it fully paid for before the final payment date, which is usually like 45, 60 days before you actually the take off, embarkation day, I should say. So a lot of people will use multiple cards. It's a great way to hit sign up bonuses, by the way, y'all. Like you can put $1,000 here, get a new card, put another $1,000 on it, whatever that way is. So if you did that with Amex, and I only say that because if you have a platinum or a gold card, you'll see cruise lines in there at least twice a year of like spend $1,000, get 25,000 MR points, things like that. But if you were to split that with your CSR and an Amex and your Capital One and whatever cards, you're not covered now for any travel protection. So I say that as that part's okay because it's the norm of the credit card space. The outlier was Chase. Now, Chase has followed suit with everyone else. Now, the bad part about it is that this means that if you are going to be splitting payments across your bookings, you might want to consider external or third party travel insurance because chances are you're not covered anymore from your credit cards, which could be a very bad thing if you had a trip interruption, a sickness, a delay, or whatever else. Now, this is also going back to OK site, not that big of a deal because most people will split their hotel and their airlines separately anyway. So unless you're doing like a down payment trip, like a cruise, all inclusive resort, something like that, where you do those types of down payments, this really shouldn't affect you that much. So just be aware. But any other time, just put 100% of your airline, which you basically have to do anyway, on your Chase card if you're doing it that way. You're still covered with Chase points. So if you book through the Chase travel portal and you use your Chase points, they consider that as 100% on your Chase card. So you're still covered that way. And you can't really split that up. You go in the Chase travel portal, and yes, I can do 50% points, 50% cash, but I can only check out with my Chase card in their travel portal. So you're still covered there. Not that big of a deal. But the travel protections, if you start splitting things up, let's say you were to buy a vacation package that they included the airline and the hotel and your excursion or tour via tour ticket all in one, and you split that up, you're not covered. So that's the main difference. But it is very good to be aware of that. But if you don't have a Sapphire card, that's like one, don't complain because it instantly doesn't affect you.
Yep.
And you're already used to it because Capital One does it this way, Amex does it this way. So Chase is just following suit. So that's the big thing. And that's why I say it's okay, but it's not that bad, but it's also not that good, depending on who you are.
So I'll just make sure that if I'm transferring points over to JetBlue, yes, I'll pay for everything with the Sapphire Reserve. But if I'm doing a points booking, make sure I pick up the Allianz along the way just to cover myself.
Yeah, and you actually make a really good point there. So the other aspect of it is they only cover you for what you put in. So before it was if you were to transfer points out, for example, to JetBlue, and you just paid your insurance taxes, call it. I know you have a family of three, at least Matt. So let's say you pay your 15 under 20, almost $20. Chase would cover you for the entire quantity. But now they're like, dude, you only paid $20. We're only gonna cover you for $20.
Yep. So add the Allianz.
Yep. So Chase Travel Portal just got more valuable, in my opinion.
Yep. Now, if only hotel stays could add to your nights. So thanks, Lani, for that. Tariq, RJ, did you guys want to add anything to Chase Travel Protections?
Not really, just read your terms and conditions. I am not somebody who relies on travel protections on my credit cards. I almost always have other means for protection, but I always read those deck pages because they can change trip to trip. I have 3 trips booked for next year, of which I have travel protections, and every deck page is slightly different. And I am thankfully somebody who knows what the terms mean and can understand what is there and what isn't there between them. But when my grandmother gets hers, she hands the deck page to me and says, "What does this mean?" And I read it and tell her. So if you don't know what it means, that's okay. But you can Google a lot of these terms, or if you know somebody who knows what the stuff means, ask. Because the worst thing is if you think you're covered for something and you're not, that is going beyond a disappointing vacation. That can go into actual major financial hardship, that can go into much bigger problems. So just if you don't know what it is, that's okay, but ask somebody who does or Google the terms.
Yep. Definitely. Tariq, did you have anything before we moved on?
For the most part, I got nothing. I know when I start booking my United flights, I'll just read the terms and conditions and see what they have to cover, since I'm probably booking my taxes and fees with my United card.
In your case, you're covered then. So this only affects the first party Chase cards, not the co-branded ones. But yeah, United takes care of you, especially when you use a United card. So you're covered there.
Excellent. Well, we'll move over to our topics. And Tariq, kick us off with your topic, please.
Yeah. So the reason why I kind of held off on the Capital One doing things was for the part because it was my topic about Capital One and the Uber One benefit. So I have been one that was able to enjoy 2 years of Uber One. And, I'm kind of sad to see it go. It's going to be set to expire on, I think it's November 14th. So to be a week from, what is that? 2 weeks from, I think, Wednesday. We're recording this on Monday or Thursday, I think it is. But aside from that, so that goes away. Now it's a loss. It's a blow for the people who use it, who enjoyed getting Uber One for free. But for the most part, the Savor One, now Savor, the Capital One Orange card is, it doesn't have an annual fee. So it's not like it's not like you're losing out that card to recoup the benefits from paying an annual fee. Now, if it was exclusively on the old Savor card, yeah, that would suck. But it had me thinking, since Capital One hasn't said what they're going to do, whether they're going to extend the partnership or it's going to go, it had me thinking where, if are we going to see it come back, or if we're going to see it come back on, say, the Venture or the Venture X. I think of the Platinum card and their benefits and their credits, and even Chase with the Sapphire Preferred or Sapphire Reserve with their credits, and even the Preferred with DoorDash and everything else, Dash Pass and everything else. So I feel like Uber One, at least in my eyes, is better suited for the Venture card, even the Venture X, even though the Venture X already has the 10,000 miles and the $300 travel portal credit. I still feel like in the land of credits, if Capital One decides to eventually, if they're going to up the annual fee, because I don't see it being $395 forever. I see them, if they wanted to, they could up the annual fee, throw the Uber One benefit on there, and that's just what, $120 a year that you're going to get just for having the card. So they can up it to like $450 or $500, and yeah, people would be upset because it's another credit, but they're getting something out of it. So I just wanted to see like what y'all thought of that, if they're going to bring it back. And Matt, your tidbits or your video on that basically had my inspiration. So I want to see what you think about it first.
So I think there's a couple of X factors here. First and foremost, it would make sense to move the credit to the Venture X because the Venture X is their travel card. That absolutely makes sense. Capital One tends to look at sense in the mirror and run away as fast and as far as possible. The bringing back the credit is something that would be popular. Bringing back the credit is something that would be great. Bringing back the credit would be something that would also help American Express Gold Card holders with their stack and making their Uber One and their Uber deliveries that much better, that much easier, even though they're going to be sacrificing 10% and getting only 4% of 4 times membership reward points. But that math is irrelevant to this conversation. I do think it would make sense. Where I have a problem would be Capital One has 9 outstanding trademarks and the potential for 9 new credit cards. I don't think they're gonna launch 9. I do think, however, the Arrive trademark could be a commuter focused type card, and if it's like commuter and like not premium travel but mid-tier other travel, getting you slightly elevated there, a Uber One membership credit on that would make a fair amount of sense. And then you get like 8% cashback or 10x 10x on that credit. This card becoming like an American Express green card competitor, wouldn't have to focus on restaurants. It could then focus on things like gas and commuter things, ride share, light rail, subways, whatever. That it could create that synergy. The other thing that I could think of would be, as soon as it was announced that Savor was coming back as a rebrand for Savor One, would be there's now space for a Savor X, whatever a Savor X would be, and a lifestyle credit on a Savor X would make more sense. If you're calling Uber One a lifestyle credit on a Savor X, say a $250 annual fee card from Capital One that does 4 times points on dining, 4 times points on groceries, 4 times points on entertainment, 8 to 10 times points on Uber, and included Uber One credit. And now you can do one other credit to offset it. Now you have a card that also complements the Venture X, whether they move that annual fee up or not. That makes a whole lot of sense. So I think there's room to either bring it back on a potential Savor X. I think there's room to bring it back on a new commuter focused card that could be like an Amex Green competitor. It would just make the most sense to just slap it over onto the Venture X and just make everybody happy that way. But yeah, I don't know. Or they'll just go in a dark room.
Yeah, the Savor X play still feels a little weird, especially since they just dump the Savor annual fee card. Like it but then again, it's Capital One, so they could just do it because
Annual fee was too low. There wasn't enough credits on that there was no credit on that made it worth kind of bringing it in. Like this, if the Uber One credit was on the Savor and not the Savor One, you would have had the ability to market it to go upstream to get the Savor and get this credit. And that's what could have saved the Savor. Now you take it off of this version of the Savor, which is just the Savor One, and reserve it for a higher tier card. Now you can bring it back and make it make sense and market to your Savor One folks. Get this card instead and pay us $120, at least $120 a year, if not $250 a year, for a card that was everything you loved about the American Express Gold card, plus 4 times points on entertainment, and your Uber, and like we can supplement your American Express Gold card with an Uber One membership to take all the delivery fees away from, the thing that you don't want to pay.
Yeah, no, that's valid. I mean, it makes sense. RJ, as someone who actually holds the Venture X card, where would you value that, especially on the fact that you also hold the Gold card and getting the Uber benefit on and the Platinum, mind you. So you get all those Uber benefits. So would you be okay with paying a higher annual fee on the Venture X if it means you get Uber One?
So I have a couple thoughts on this. I think that Capital One is doing their best chaotic neutral impression right now. I don't think they're good. I don't think they're bad. I think they're neutral, but they're definitely chaotic.
Flag.
Yeah. So I think one point from Matt that I think is important is that they have a ton of outstanding card names out in the world through trademark. They need more cards, not more versions of, the same cards, but they need actual differentiation in their lineup. It was both a blessing and a curse for them to make their best card a 2x catch-all, because that makes it very hard to differentiate their lineups, but they need to. And I could see them using the Uber One benefit on a Savor X or on something different. I could see maybe the Venture One going away. I could see them sort of branching out and creating almost like Wells Fargo has done with the 2 different autograph cards. You have the Attune, sort of branching their lineup out, especially as they're going to probably next year absorb Discover in total. So I don't know where this is going to be. Do I want to pay more for the Venture X to have it? Not really. I use part of my Platinum, I think it is, to pay for Uber One. So I have that. It would be nice not to have to, use part of those credits to pay for it. But I don't know if the Venture X getting that could go up to 450, 500 to compete with like a CSR and have it feel worth it. Even with the credit, even with the 10,000 points on the anniversary, just getting Uber One feels like a reach for moving the annual fee up on that card, because of, yes, it's the best catch-all in terms of its 2x, which is the best you're going to get, but it does feel like a reach for Capital One where they are with the partners they have. If they had an American, if they had a United, if they had a Delta, if they had a higher end hotel, I could see it maybe, but with current partners, with current structure, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I just think of having potentially like it's like the Capital One's like path of least resistance on that Venture X, especially if they could even keep the 10x that you would get on like Uber One, plus like the 6% cash back on like Uber Cash you'll get on that. So I'm just thinking of that, especially since they're already dealing with the Discover merger and whatever they're planning to do with that. So, yeah. Lani, you got any thoughts on it? I know it's not really too much on it for you.
Actually, see, you and Matt just trying to think it, because I don't carry one in my wallet. I don't know what's happening around in the business or whatnot.
It's not that you didn't know. I just didn't know how much you cared.
Oh, I don't care, but I do have an opinion. And I'm going to use my professional marketing and professional business mindset to answer my question. And to answer your question, the first thing is no, I don't think it's coming back. And no, I don't think they're going to switch it over to the Venture X. The reason why is because there's a very strong chance that people are not utilizing it in a way that makes sense for Capital One to make a profit. When you have these types of co-marketing, joint business marketing, and business partnerships, it can't be parasitic. It has to be symbiotic, or else it's going to die, which is why they don't say, we're going to do this forever. We're going to do this for 12 months and then we might extend it. That's why you see this type of stuff on credit cards. So if it, like we just saw this with Amex and the Uber credit, right? Like they're changing that up. Why? Because people are probably taking their credit and then like going on Uber Eats and using a different card. And Amex is like, well, we're in a parasitic relationship. We're not getting anything out of this. We need to help each other out. And the reason why I say no is actually, before I say that, another great example is the Walmart Plus subscription credit waiver on the Amex Platinum. Like, really break this down. It's Walmart Plus, not Walmart. And the reason why is like, think of Walmart. Walmart's physical brick and mortar Walmarts are placed geographically for a reason. They are placed in areas around a specific financial demographic that would patron a Walmart, right? How many of the people goes to Walmart carry a platinum card? Guarantee it's not a high number, which is why they did Walmart Plus, so they can get those types of card holders into the Walmart ecosystem in a different way, in a way that they're more used to, like an Amazon Prime type of fashion. That's what I mean here. And that's why I don't think it's going to come back, because if people aren't fully utilizing it, then it's literally just not a good business decision. So that's why I'm saying, no, I don't see it coming back. I think they're going to completely scrap it, make room for something else, something more valuable to the business, and then that will work. But I think Uber's kind of tapped out, especially with their competitors looking at Amex. Also, Uber is not even the preferred rideshare. Verbally, it is like, hey, let's grab an Uber. Yeah, that's like saying, can you hand me a Kleenex though? I'll say I'm taking an Uber and I'm going to the pink company every single time. That's the type of example that I'm making here, where yeah, I might got Uber One and so many people are signing up for Uber One, and Uber's probably sitting there like, yo, you got 100 people that signed up, but none of them are taking Uber. Maybe it's Uber going to pull out. Either way, I don't think it's going to switch. I don't think it's going to come back. I don't think you're going to see it in a new form in any way or shape. Not to say it can't be replaced with something different, but from my business mindset, from my marketing mindset, it ain't coming back. It's gone.
10% back on Lime.
That was the thing that was the craziest, was the fact that you got Uber One and you were getting 10x or 10% back. And for a weird period, like at the beginning of like the Uber One credits hitting and towards the end, you were getting 10x on the membership charge that was getting reimbursed. So you were basically, even though it was only $9.99, you were getting $1 just for having the credit. So you're getting a free $1 from Capital One just for doing it. Like it was.
I didn't know that, and that is a horrible business.
It was so weird. You're
kind losing twice.
They nerfed it in like the middle, and then went down to like 1% on the Uber thing. But like my last two charges, it was literally 10% on the $9.99 charge. So I got $1 just for having Uber One. So they were literally paying me to have Uber One. So, when I think about it like that, plus the few times I did use it, plus backing with mileage plus X, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I was probably using the hell out of it, and not the way that Capital One intended, because that's their fault, because they only gave me a $1,300 limit on the Savor. So that's on them.
Yeah, Capital One is Capital One does Capital One things, and if they're not going to be able to extend the Uber relationship, they're going to be locked out of Lyft. They are sort of out of luck because nothing else comes close to that. Like in New York, there's options for like local ride share. I'm sure in Dallas there's local ride shares. I'm sure in Austin there's local ride shares. If you really want to play with fire, there's Waymo. In Phoenix and San Francisco, but yeah, I don't know what their plan here is, but they got to figure it out. Let's move on to Lani, your topic of the week, sir.
For sure. Once again, nice to see y'all again. I'm glad I'm back. Glad to see y'all again. Anyway, so I had mentioned earlier, I just came back from another trip for my wife's birthday. Happy birthday to her. We left out of Miami. So we took the cruise through Port of Miami. So I just left Miami Airport, which is not a United hub, and it does not have a United club in it. Now, my question for the group is around lounge access. So let me give some context here. So as of right now, I have Priority Pass. I have Star Alliance Gold status from my United status. I have a Platinum card. Miami does have a Centurion Lounge in it. It's very far away from the United gates, though. So you know how I feel about that. I'm not making that walk. I say all this because I ended up taking my family to the Turkish Airlines lounge. Now, it is a Star Alliance lounge. It's also a Priority Pass lounge. This particular one is small. It was slightly dated, not very modern, etc. It's not like, high-end luxury or whatnot, but it's a lounge. Had food, it had seats, had a good view of the tarmac. But this particular lounge, I had access with both Priority Pass and Star Alliance Gold. There's also other lounges in the area that were in walking distance, but we're not going to get into those because I didn't go to those. I went to the closest one, and this one was Turkish Airlines. And I say all this because, one, lounge access is, in my opinion, starting to get a little crazy. Now, I understand differentiation and competition is good, but when there's a different lounge, like every couple of steps, and we're starting to see it even in the larger airports, the JFKs, the IADs, LaGuardias, SFOs, whatever, where it's like, oh, I got the Capital One, and then I can take these steps and go to the Centurion. Oh, and then I can go to this Etihad Lounge, or then I can go to this new Chase Sapphire Lounge. Like, there's Priority Pass access, there's credit cards that give you direct access, there's status that gives you access. Of course, buying a seat, we're going to keep buying a seat out of it. All of that said, would you rather prefer a whole bunch of lounges with limited access, so like the mediocre or the small ones, or would you prefer less lounges that are much larger, much newer, get much more attention when it comes to construction, modernization, larger buffet, maybe with more access? So that way we don't have all this overlap from different statuses and cards and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Which one would you prefer? And I'm going to go ahead and kick this off first. Now that I've seen, it's not my first time through Miami, but it just kind of annoyed me that there were so many different lounges there, and like I had so much access to get to every single one, even though like I've never flown on like a lot of these airlines. I prefer larger. Give me larger, newer, more space, better food selection. I'm not going to say quality. Quality is never that great, but better food selection, etc., with less overlap versus the small. And then, Matt, I'm going to kick this off to you first.
I think there's potentially a case for both. And that is to say, not every major airport is going to be able to do one or two large lounges, right? So like I recently flew through Charleston. Charleston has but one lounge, right? And Charleston probably can't do much more than the one lounge it has. It could probably use expanding that lounge a little bit, but you're not going to be able to get a Centurion and a Sapphire and a Capital One lounge.
And in that case, can we limit this to the larger international airports
Sure.
then?
So looking at a more focused set of airports, I think larger lounges would be preferable. I also think there should be a way for the lounges. So like one of the things that can lead to overcrowding can be just lounge hopping. I've got X number of hours before my trip. I'm going to hit up the Sky Club. Oh, I don't like it here. I'm going to move over to the Centurion Lounge. Well, Centurion Lounge is kind of like, I didn't like the food today. Let me go check out the Sapphire Lounge. Like there shouldn't be like, yes, having access to these is a great privilege, but pick your lounge, stay in your lounge, because having to exit, yeah, you've opened up a slot for someone else to walk in, but now you're going to go take a slot somewhere else. Like, pick your lounge, have your backup lounge, and if both of those are struck out, yes, maybe find a tertiary option, but realistically, don't lounge hop. Or the lounges should work on cutting back on lounge hopping. If they see that you have to present your ticket, you have to present the card that you're using, there should be a way to communicate, hey, this person's already been in 3 lounges today. Maybe don't let them in the yet another lounge because they just feel like it. So I would rather see larger lounges with more space, larger buffets, and more restrictive access, which would be great. Like Sapphire Lounge, yes, I understand the marketing to get people with priority pass to get one free visit and then get that taste and then apply for the Sapphire Reserve. But if half the people are on that one pass, I as a Sapphire Reserve holder can't get in. And so that needs to get tightened up somehow. I think there's things that can be done to make that better. And I would start with getting rid of lounge hopping and make your exclusive lounges a little bit more exclusive. But I don't know that you can cut back on the number of airlines offering their lounges or things like that. But on the credit card side, I think larger and more exclusive would be better.
Going back to your Sapphire example, don't forget you're still standing in line from all those one-time pass holders of priority pass as well. They're not going in. There's a new one every day. RJ.
So I'm split for a couple of reasons. I think there needs to be, maybe priority passes model isn't the best. Like maybe priority pass lounge should be separate in a way. Like, you know what I mean? Like they should be their own thing and they should be priority pass branded. For people who, don't have Centurion, don't have Delta, don't have United access, right? Like maybe once you get a Delta card with access, or maybe once you get the CSR, you no longer get priority pass, right? Like, and I'm not saying I want, a caste system in flying, but I do think it's part of the problem is you have so much access to all these different lounges. You do hop, right? You do go, here and there and everywhere. I think if we created sort of a general use lounge for people without the higher status, one, it's going to make people decide if they want better access anyway, get a platinum card, get a CSR, get whatever. Two, it's going to clear out those lounges for sort of the one-time use people. So the lounges for the people who pay, like if I have a platinum card and I go to a Centurion or a Delta lounge, like I want to be able to get in, and sometimes those get overcrowded. Now some of it is they let everybody get a platinum for a while, but it would help, right? And it would make it a little bit easier. And I do think, just like you said, you had 8 ways to get into some lounges. through different cards. And I do think that's a problem. Like the overlap, I think, is a problem. And having like priority pass be the name of the lounge and you have a priority pass membership so you can get into this segment of lounges, I think might solve some of the other issues. And it might also deter the hopping because, oh, well, this lounge is called this. It's like, going to priority pass lounge number 4 is not as hot as going to whatever, the current name is, right? So it might cut down on some of that hopping just by the nature of it.
No, I totally agree. I think Priority Pass needs to create their own lounge network. I know that's kind of contradictory to my question, but it would solve so much when it comes to the overlap. But going back to Matt's answer, they could go to not necessarily small regional airports, but the mid-sized ones and just create Priority Pass lounges. I think that would help solve. But then also, RJ, there already is a caste system when flying. It's literally how they do their seats and boarding process.
And lounges.
And also lounges.
Yeah, because there's a La Premiere lounge and then there's basic
everyone else.
whatever for KLM, yeah.
But United Club versus Polaris Lounge.
But we all can agree the way they organize their seats in the boarding process is a caste system.
Yes.
Fair.
Tariq.
Okay, so looking at just the landscape of lounges, it is just this mess. I mean, you could throw a dart at the wall and hit a premium credit card that's got priority pass. I mean, even like I found like the PenFed Pathfinder card where if you have $500 in a PenFed checking account, it's a no annual fee card that gives you priority pass. Now I think it's like a weaker version of priority pass, but nonetheless, you still get priority pass. I don't know if the issue is necessarily whether it be more smaller lounges or consolidating and just having larger lounges. I think it's more kind of geared towards RJ's answer in the sense of just consolidation in regarding to having the priority pass having their lounges, kind of like with Plaza Premium. And I think even like Escape and like Amex, and maybe kill the whole Centurion, the Platinum card getting Sky Club access and the Delta Reserve getting Centurion Lounge access.
Like hell, you say?
Hey, it'll help with overcrowding.
Ooh, she came in hot.
I knew it was gonna ruffle feathers, but I mean,
someone who just recently gained access to Maple Leaf lounges, come on, don't take that away from me immediately. Especially while Chase has no idea how to open a lounge in the last like 8 months.
Hey, it's either that or y'all got to stop complaining about the overcrowding. One of the two.
I fly through LaGuardia. It's the largest Delta lounge in the world. I'm fine.
Yeah, that Sky Club has its own zip code.
Fair. But I mean, like at the end, like the way I see it at the end of the day, regarding having priority pass and flying an American Airlines flight, and you're going to like the Air France lounge, where does that make sense? I mean, obviously you can go to the lounge because you have priority pass, but we've already seen, like, for the people that just want to go to a lounge for the sake of going to a lounge, they're going to like 3 different gates over just because they don't have access to an Admirals Club. So it's finding a way to, if it's going to be a priority pass lounge, name it priority pass, and all these other airline international terminals, save those for the airlines, because that can help with that, at least with overcrowding and lounge hopping, because you're not going to necessarily have people going from a Lufthansa lounge to a KLM lounge if they have like a Southwest ticket. Now, it sucked for my fellow Southwest flyers, but you know, it is what it is. You chose the economy flights for that reason. So I don't know if, like I said, I don't think it's a matter of having more or less lounges, whether it's just cleaning up the system as it is for lounges.
System definitely needs some cleaning. Obviously that's the basis of the question. But yeah, if the next, and I know what you meant there, but I got to get on you a little bit. If the next lounge is 3 gates away, I don't see that as a big deal. But I know you meant like concourses terminal, so I'm not gonna go too deep on your
Hey,
Freudian
look,
slip.
come on, I'm still new to this travel thing. I'm still figuring it out, man. Cut me a little bit of slack. I don't claim to be an expert, for crying out
But
loud.
I know, but the thing is in Miami, that's what it felt like. It was literally like, oh, 3 gates away, we can just go to this other one. And like the first one I walked by was the Turkish, and I'm like, oh, this is priority pass. I can get into here. And then it's like Star Alliance Gold. Now there is limitations priority pass depending on how many guests and things like that you can get in versus Star Alliance Gold. So I use Star Alliance Gold versus my priority pass. But to your point, it was like I could have just walked 15 more steps and went somewhere else. And I was like, this is nuts. This is absolutely crazy. Except for Centurion Lounge. So I was over in the H concourse in Miami. Centurion's in D. That can
Nah,
kiss
man.
my black. That can kiss my black
Nope.
behind. Yeah, not making that walk. Not
Yeah.
making that walk. I don't care how
think-
much I pay for it. Not making that walk.
I think it's also a matter of the certain cities where these airports are. Let's just say the mid-tier international airports. San Antonio would be one of them, where having to be able to expand to have more lounge, like club lounge acts, like space. I mean, like I said, San Antonio only has one. Well, they have 2 lounges. One of them, only one airside. It's a United Club. I feel like these cities, if they want to have more, it's a kind of like that symbiotic relationship that we talked about, where United, Delta, American are going to pay for that slot to, pay the lease, however it costs to have a lounge for this airport. But it means that, the city government's going to have to funnel the cost to be able to expand the terminal in order to get that club lounge space access. So it's kind of like, for those governments, you kind of got to put up or shut up. That's why I'm like looking forward to see what, my home airport, San Antonio, is going to do, because they are going to expand. They're going to add a new terminal, and that's going to have more club lounge access. And so we'll see if it's going to be an Admirals Club or a Sky Club, or maybe they'll go crazy and have like a Centurion Lounge, because I don't think it'll be Centurion Lounge. We're too close to DFW. So maybe a Sky Club. That'd be cool.
I would even say that goes back to your statement of like they got to clean up the system. Now, airline lounges, I totally get. United Club's always with United gates. Delta's always with Delta gates. Americans are, is always with the Admirals Club is always with the American gates. But then I'm going to take international out of it. So I'm going to take, the Turkish and the Etihad and the Flying Blues out of it. But that makes total sense to have those there. But when it comes to something like a Centurion Lounge, I'm just going to use them again as an example. It's hit or miss. It's like, if I'm flying United and at SFO, it's right there in the SFO concourse and Terminal 3, in the mix of all the international flights and the United flights. Perfect. 30 steps, 45 steps max. I can swing that, especially when holding a 2-year-old and, backpack on and probably got to carry on. I'm rolling. That's okay. But when it's, as Matt said, in the next zip code, and that might be your only option. I'm like, this is nuts. This is too crazy. There are way too many. And then you go to the one that's convenient, and just everyone in the mama has a way to get in. And it's just like, I'd rather y'all just like pool money together and just make one giant lounge over here instead, that if you're going to have this much accessibility. But that's just me, though. I'm going to pass the mic. Who are we going to next, Matt?
RJ, your topic of the week.
So occasionally you will see a story about a U.S. senator who wants to try to score some points somewhere. I'm not sure who they're scoring points with, but they try occasionally and talk about co-branded cards and about airline miles, hotel miles, or hotel points. And they talk about co-branded cards going away, basically. So that's sort of the basis of my question is how would your strategy change if co-branded cards were no longer allowed? Now, like the Platinum would keep their hotel status, things like that would still be allowed, but no more Hilton cards, no more IHG cards. Those have gone away. So for me personally, because I have the green, that really helps, right? Because I have a card with that travel focus, I would be pretty happy there. I have, you know, the one saving grace of the Platinum as far as earnings is you do get 5x on flights. So I would still have that. And a lot of my troubles would be alleviated there. But as far as hotel cards, like Choice would go back to the 3x, things like that. So it would be a change. It would be a reconsideration. I don't have a ton of co-branded cards as far as non-Delta cards. I would be sad to lose the 15% off on awards flights, but other than that, I would still be in pretty good shape. Lani, as a man who loves his United card, or cards, I should say, and your other co-brands, how would this affect your strategy?
I enjoy this question because my plan A strategy would shift, but it would not change because I don't have that many co-branded cards. I only have like 2 or 3 of them. So if I were to lose my oh so value United card, I'm still covered with Chase. My Sapphire Reserve is going to still cover me. It's still going to cover my IHG card. Uh, if I were to lose, well, I already mentioned my IHG card. We took out we before for y'all, just in context for y'all listening, we took the built card and called that co-branded. So even with that card, not really losing nothing if that card goes away. I still have my plan A strategy. It's just going to shift a little bit because I'm not going to earn points directly with the co-brand United or IHG in this case, but I could still get points to United and IHG via transfer, or any other partner with like my Amex. I can get to like my Marriott and my Hilton that way. You know, my in the whatever I consider it falls under Plan B. Um, but I would probably lean, and you already know I already lean into it anyway. I would just lean more into the Chase Travel Portal, which literally just opens the world right back up. So my strategy itself, that what would change is I would focus more on the first party rewards currencies, no matter if it's Chase, Amex, whatever. And then I would just use the internal first party tools and resources like travel portals, their transfer partners, etc., to get me where I'm going. But I would still remain a United loyalist using my status that way. I would still keep, even if I lost my IHG Platinum card as the co-brand card, I would probably lose Platinum, but I can still transfer points and do ambassador program and get Platinum right back, pay to play for it. So it really wouldn't change anything for me there. And if I didn't want to go IHG, it would be a perfect time for me to shift and change it, IHG, my preferred hotel to a different hotel. So there's a reason why I'm so adamant about my plan A strategy because it has so many fail safes.
That is always a good thing. Matt, as a man without partners who decides to travel as chaotic as Capital One conducts business, how would the co-brand loss affect you?
So I would lose my JetBlue Business and I would lose my Hilton Honors. Those are the only co-brand cards that I have. So not a whole, like, losing the perks on the JetBlue card would suck. Like, yeah, I'd have to make a play to determine how I get on the plane a little bit faster. There's ways I can mitigate that. That's fine. And then losing the Hilton, yeah, I'd keep my points, so I'd just have to make sure that I transfer points over, or I just book everything through my Sapphire Reserve. And, if I book directly with Hilton with status with Hilton, I'm still going to get 12 times points for booking, or I'm going to get whatever my base points bonus is with Hilton. We did it a couple weeks ago. I don't remember the math. It is a time in the evening. We don't need to cover that. So, most of my stuff stays pretty much exactly the same. If I'm booking with my CSR, if I'm booking with my autograph, I lose the co-brand benefits, which are nice on the cards that I have, but I still get to transfer points. I still get to generate points. I still get to pay for travel. Like my plan A, plan B type strategies don't get hurt too badly. It's just I don't get a couple of extra perks on the cards that I have. And the JetBlue, it's replaceable. I just buy a ticket that includes checked baggage. Whoop-de-doo. Or I transfer enough points to check my bags.
Fair. Tariq, I know you have at least one co-branded card because I believe you mentioned it on this podcast about 357,000 times. So how is this going to change your strategy, Mr. Hilton? Hyatt, sorry.
Right.
God, I do that.
Wow.
IHG,
There's too many
soon to be
hotels
United.
that start with H or have H in there somewhere. Let me try that one. more time.
Howard Johnson.
Yeah. So have Howard
Wyndham.
Johnson. Tariq, how would this change your strategy, Mr. Hyatt?
So, in the nature of me mentioning the card, it will be mentioned for a 357,001 time. First time. Screw it. It's late when we record. But I was just looking at seeing like what cards I would lose first. That would be the aforementioned Hyatt business card that I've mentioned more times than I'd like to admit. My IHG Premier Business, which is only second to the card that I mentioned the most. My Amazon Prime Visa, my Costco Anywhere Visa, and my Target Red Card. So I'd really only be losing 2 co-branded cards that, and realistically one that I really care about, and then the other one I'm just accepting because I wanted more Hyatt points. So losing out on the co-branded cards for Hyatt just means that I don't get the sign-up bonus for Hyatt, and then I don't get the free night certificate on the Hyatt personal card, but I plan on getting, and I think in 2026, I have to go reevaluate my game plan for that. So that doesn't really hurt too much. And then with United, yeah, I'd lose out on the Explorer card, which would suck because I would lose it before I even get it. And all of the videos that I watched, all of Lani's videos that I watched on it for hours upon hours on end would make me cry because I wouldn't get the card anymore. But Mileage Plus X still exists. And I gotten like the bulk of my United miles just off of that with stacking with my Sapphire Preferred. So like,
They coming so fast, don't they?
dude, 57, I'm at like 53,000. I don't have a United card.
Burn those points, bud.
Yep. Now, granted, it was also like the My Points app, which is like swag bucks, but United miles. But I learned every strategy that I can for that. So plan A doesn't really get affected too much. I just lose out on like extra sign-up bonuses for like the extra points. Plus, I lose a discounted United Club membership. I'll just pay for it. I just pay the $650. It would suck. It is what it is. Now, where would there be some changes for me would be plan B. Because obviously being with Hyatt, I'd still need a plan B strategy. And the reason why I went IHG was because their co-branded card gives me a bunch of the benefits with the Platinum Elite status, free night certificate, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd be reevaluating my plan B. So honestly, I'd be kicking IHG out to the curb and be looking for a new plan B. And that new plan B for me would be choice, because of the fact that I can get Citi cards and I can get Wells Fargo cards, and they transfer 1 to 2 and just earn, I can run the Citi Strata Premier. I have a Citi Custom Cash. Maybe if I wanted to earn a double cash, nah, I'd have the Wells Fargo Active Cash. So I'd have the Citi Strata Premier, the Citi Custom Cash on the Citi side, and then start dabbling with Wells Fargo, get the autograph, get the Attune, get the active cash, and just earn like a crap load of those points, transferring them out. And now I got like a bunch of choice points that I can just start earning, like start saving those choices, and then just save my Hyatt points for like category 4, 5, 6s, those really nice ones, because I can earn choice points faster than I can burn them. I'd be like Lani, but for choice. So I think that would be like a strategy for there, because honestly, I love the fact that I love City's earning categories. And Wells Fargo, like City and Wells Fargo, are the best low annual fee or even low to no annual fee earning cards in the ecosystem. So it would let me dabble in the choice, and I'd probably stop caring so much about 524, because yeah, I'd earn my chase cards. Maybe I'd get an ink, but I wouldn't have to worry about the Hyatt card. I wouldn't have to worry about the United card. I wouldn't have to worry about the IHG card. Wouldn't have to worry about like all this co-brands, because those don't exist. And then I can get the built card for rent and then just facilitate it that way. And then I can start maybe dabbling into like other cards that I didn't even like think about using. I mentioned the PenFed Pathfinder, $500 in a checking account. I get a no annual fee travel card, $100 to United Travel Bank, and then I can rock with that. I could get the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve, can just make that a catch-all card, redeem for real-time rewards. Card is like not necessarily as underrated as it's been, because it's getting a lot of traction lately. It's a good card. And then Venture X, because I can use the travel credit. I'll probably potentially use the travel portal more, get some value out of that. And then, maybe I'll dabble with their, Priority Pass, and then like the 3 Capital One lounges, because they have a lounge in Dulles and they have a lounge in Denver. And those are 2 United hubs. So I would potentially be able to use those lounges depending on where they are. Like, we just talked about Lani's topic. So if I'm having to go to like 3 different concourses, taking the air train just so I can go to the Capital One lounge, probably not. But I think that's going to be the biggest thing, is just switching from IHG to choice. So I would, instead of like the IHG One rewards, dine and earn, I'd be earning like the choice eat and earn for the rewards network. So I'd be using that with mileage plus dining. And I would just have a crap load more thank you points and Wells Fargo points that I would just go crazy with choice. And that might even end up making choice plan A to an extent, because I'd be staying at more choice and saving the Hyatt stays for the Grand Hyatt, Park Hyatt, Thompson, you name it. So
The only problem with dealing with City is you have to deal with City.
Yep.
Yes, but I'm not doing like 25 different gift cards. I'm using the custom cash for like
doesn't
one
matter.
category.
Dealing with City is a pain in the ass. Doesn't matter how
I
many
know.
custom caches you have.
The second you put your card into Apple Pay, they think you're committing fraud. So City has many issues.
I would just use the physical card. I don't care.
I will say, in this world where co-brands no longer exist, the Sapphire cards, both of them, need hotel status of some sort. Otherwise, that's a pain in the that's probably a bridge that needs to be crossed. All right. We'll close with my topic of the week here, and my topic is a hypothetical for getting into travel. And someone in this hypothetical is recently applied for 3 cards in the last 24 months. They are unaware that Chase has a mythical 524 status. I'm just going to use 524. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. Now they've decided to jump into travel. They've got through their 324. Now they were cashback. They were pretty heavily into cashback. They weren't burning their cashback, so they've got like $800 to play with from various cashback. So you can use that however you see fit. And they do have some bills that like don't automatically transfer over to, say, Apple Pay if they wanted to go the US bank route and just pay their utilities with Apple Pay. If you're this hypothetical person who has already picked up 3 cards in the last 24 months, how do you approach a transition from cashback to travel? What's like the first card? What is the ecosystem you want to pick? I also threw in that this person has 0 loyalty programs that they've been a part of, and they usually were booking their travel through OTAs, online travel agencies. So blank slate, but you've used 3 of your 5 slots for Chase. If that is a thing you're going to do, how do you approach it? And Lani, how do you go about starting travel from 324?
It's the first time I'm ever going to say this, but I hate you, Matt. This question makes my head hurt.
It's
And
only because of the time.
it's so annoying. I could be playing the new Call of Duty game right now,
I'm sorry.
but I'm going to answer your question. And it sucks because the first thing, after everything you just said, the first thing I hear is 0 loyalty programs. You haven't dropped your email into a single loyalty program yet? Anyway, now
I'd rather
I
get
don't
yelled at about that than Rakuten.
hold on. Rakuten's in my answer. Oh, it. Here's how I would transition. I'm not going to go too deep into the specifics and say go to this or that or whatnot. But the very first thing you need to do if you want to transfer, in my opinion, the first piece of advice is pick your damn partners. Go pick some partners. Figure out where your airline is, what hotel chain you want to be a part of. If you don't have a Southwest at the closest airport, and that's the one you don't want to drive 3 hours to the bigger airport, pick your partner. First thing, 100%. Now, you also mentioned you're already at 324. So you got 2 options here, but the thing is, go get an airline that after you pick your partners, get your airline and your hotel card. Straight up, just get them, whatever the partners those happen to be. Now, that could put you at 524, but there could also be an option of product change to one of those cards, depending on who the bank or credit card issuer is. I would say do product change option first. If that's not available, I think you had mentioned there is an Apple card, so you can't product change that to anything, so you're kind of stuck with that. But you still have 2 open slots to get to before you get to 524. Get your airline and your hotel card. After that, you are starting to make the transition into the travel realm. You're not losing anything because you've been in cash back the entire time. You got your money in your pocket, you're good. So you're not really losing anything. You're just transferring your rewards to something else. So the next thing is learn how to inflate those. Start small, but learn how to inflate them. This is Rakuten coming in. So put Rakuten in your Chrome browser or download it to your phone, right? Get the Mileage Plus X app. Understand the shopping portal for whatever airline you chose as your partner. So this way you can start building up that currency and that reward booking. Of course, you've created your loyalty account by now. And then you did you mention utilities?
In the way that I had phrased it, like you're paying your utilities at like $400 a month, but you can't use Apple Pay. I was just trying to
Yeah.
make it so that you can't just pick the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve.
So the other thing, and this is completely separate than the 2 personal cards, if I can't product change and I hit 524, get the Ink Cash. It basically covers you for almost every single type of utility out there. So that way, you'll now at least have the Ink Cash. However you want to use that, it opens you up to Chase Travel Portal, Chase Shopping Portal, etc. So that falls into we're creating a plan A strategy here. We'll figure the rest out later. And then, like I said, I'm going back to the apps or the extensions, shopping portals, Mileage Plus X, Rakuten, anything like that. Start using those, dabble around, get used to it. But the very last thing to transfer from cashback to travel, because at some point in our lives, we've all done it at a small scale or at a large scale, every single one of us. You got to commit. And when I say commit, you got to commit to a trip. Doesn't mean you have to book it, but you have to like put it on the calendar. You have to commit to your best friend. Like, Matt, we are going to Bronson, Missouri, whatever, in February. You got to commit, because once you commit, the entire mindset changes of like, oh, this is real. Like, That's the point where your spend actually really starts taking effect of, I need to use this card for X and I need to use that card for Y. So once you commit, all that stuff really starts taking place. And that's the practice that you need before that trip that you just committed to create that lifestyle around set strategy that you're trying to build. So, like I said, I'm not going to go specifically into each brand. Y'all know what brands I would say anyway in my real life scenario. But for those that are listening that don't live in United areas or travel through IHGs, pick your partners. It can be any partners. Just pick a partner. And of course, create a loyalty program for it. And I stop.
RJ, I'm sure Lani took about 85% of your answer, and I apologize for picking Lani first, but what's your approach here?
So he took a fair bit, but part of the fun of this podcast is finding other avenues to an answer. So first, I agree with Lani that get a loyalty program for everything. They're free, right? Like I have IHG loyalty program. I don't stay at IHGs very much, but I have it. So if I go, I have the ability to get points from it. Now, what I'm going to say, I think, is counterintuitive to some of the things I've done, but there's always the do as I say, don't not as I do mentality occasionally. Have 3 months of your budget broken down by how you actually spent the money. If you don't have data for at least 3 months, wait 3 months and do a budget and see where your money's actually going. Not like where you think it's going, where it's actually going. Because categories matter on your spend. Yes, sign-up bonuses are the quickest way to get a lot of points. But how you spend money day to day matters, long-term matters as points build up. Especially if you're not taking a lot of trips, you can build up points through your spend and have some nice times that way. So figure out your budget. If you're, spending, 20,000 in discretionary spend every month, you're going to be looking at different cards than if you spend 200 a month for discretionary spend. So you need to understand your budget. You need to understand the categories that you want to maximize. If you're, somebody who's single and in a major city and you don't actually buy many groceries, then the gold card may work for you for the dining, but another card might work for you better if you have partners that you like for a different card, the Savor, for example, right? Like there are ways that you have to navigate that if you pick your partners, that's going to tell you what ecosystems you want to play in. Once you figure out what ecosystems you want to play in, you need to know what cards for those multipliers are going to work. So sometimes it'll take a little time. Like you don't have to be like, oh, I want to be traveling. I want to use Delta. I'm going to go get the reserve. Like that might work for you. But if you fly 2 times a year, the reserve might not be the best card. The gold might be, especially with the $0 annual fee the first year and the same 15% off rewards flights. If you're not going to hit subs, getting higher end cards might feel cool because you got approved for it and you might actually be able to use the card pretty effectively. But if you're not getting those sign up bonuses, a lot of companies, it's at least 4 years before you're going to be able to get a sign up bonus. If you can hit it in 4 years, some you might not get for 7. So you really applying for cards if you don't know if you're going to hit the sign up bonus is another thing that you want to avoid, right? So taking a minute, which I know is crazy for somebody, who did some velocity this year and who has quite a lot of cards, but taking a minute and figuring this out before you just dive in as far as the actual applying for cards and building that wallet up is going to serve you better in the long term. Do cash stays. Go to a Hilton and do a cash stay. Go to an IHG and do a cash stay. You're going to be racking up points because you signed up for the loyalty program, but maybe, plan some trips and see. I've, done fake trips for myself just to check out some systems and like, oh, when I go to, this part of the country, Hilton probably isn't going to be my best bet for the mid tier to the high tier. Let me take a look at this. So I have those strategies built in so I know how to go. If you haven't ever planned out a trip, like Lani was saying, you're not going to have a sense of how all of this works. So you really have to take a little bit of time and not just be like, oh, let me get the, the CSP and the Venture X and the Platinum and the Gold and, have it in 8 different ecosystems, because that probably won't actually help you. If you live in New York City and, will take whatever airline gets you where you want to be when you want to be, that's different. If you live in LA, same thing, because you got LAX right there. But for most of the people getting into this, you probably don't live 15 minutes from 8 different airports, right? So you do need to have strategy. And even if you live in New York City or LA, picking partners also can narrow down your scope. It's, the old adage of McDonald's was always at its best when it had fewer choices, because if you have fewer choices, it makes it easier to pick, and all of the options are good for McDonald's. They want you to eat a hamburger as much as a cheeseburger, as much as a fillet of fish. It all is money to them. And if you can narrow your partners down, you're winning no matter what choice you make, because it'll at least let you focus that funneling of those points into one area. So yes, get Rakuten, get all of that, but also take a little bit of time and figure things out before you bull rush in.
Absolutely. Tariq, besides highlighting Rakuten, besides highlighting mileage plus X, anything else you'd add to the sudden transition from cashback to travel?
So I actually like this question because when I was looking at the question, in the notes before we started recording, I realized this was me. This was literally where I was like a year ago, and maybe a little bit before that. I could say a year and a half. I was full cashback up until I realized I was redeeming my cashback for hotel stays. Like, I can even go through and like list out the cards I had. I had a 2% cashback card with like my local credit union. I had the Bank of America customized cash rewards. I had the Blue Cash Every Day. I had the Prime Visa. I had the Costco Visa. I had the Capital One Savor One, the Navy Federal Visa cash rewards, and the City Custom Cash, all for cashback. I was hitting the sign-up bonuses and like redeeming it for like cash days for hotels. So that's where I realized when I had that realization. So like once you get that realization that you want to travel, cool. First thing you're doing is, like I said, assessing your situation. You mentioned that there was $800 in cash back that you just have. Now that's a lot of cash back. So, you could potentially burn that for a flight, a round trip flight, or you can do that for your hotel stays. It helps with Lani's mantra of picking your partner when you may not know who Lani is and don't have the 2-hour long conversation that makes you convert over to United. So that's a factor. Like for me, I was doing it with just a bunch of Marriott stays. Now, granted, once I got a little deeper in the game, it switched from Marriott over to Hyatt, but that's just part of the process. So you're just learning who you're staying with. So the big thing is obviously signing up for all your reward loyalty programs. It's free. Honestly, shame on me. I don't even think I have all of them up yet because I'm just kind of like full gung-ho on my partners. But like Lani and RJ said, they're free. I may as well do it, and so you may as well do it. So yeah, I wouldn't even like for the first 6 months to a year, don't even try to jump into it, because that's where I kind of made that mistake myself. I just was fortunate enough to where I didn't have to pivot too much, because I went from Chase partners to Chase partners. I just had Marriott points that I had to move over to Southwest that I ended up having to burn and didn't get to use United. I still haven't used United yet. I had one flight this year that was a Southwest flight because I jumped the gun. So it's really about the patience, and of course, knowing your location, knowing where, like who you're going to fly with, Like if you're at an airport where you're going to have all three airlines, all the big three airlines, and it doesn't really matter, see which one, if you want to have like an elevate, if you want to know, you want to get into like the elevated travel day. If you know what your travel day is like, and maybe get lucky with having one that has a lounge, maybe that could be your partner. Think of like another good thing that I think of, just watching trip report YouTube videos. I've probably watched a couple hours of like iTrip Report, Jeb Brooks, of like people who have gone and experienced these like United flight, airplane interiors, whether it's just be like what the economy, extra legroom economy, business class, first class, which is why I realized on top of the lounge access, I chose United over American because I like the way those United Next interiors look, and they look really cool versus, American just having the device holders and it seems rather basic on top of like other things. So it's really just the matter of also just doing research, look up where you want to fly with. And even if you don't even fly out of your home airport, you can do you can find somebody that can go through the home airport and kind of know your travel experience. So that's where you don't even worry about trying to get the cards first. And then once you kind of get the idea, then you can look at where the transfer partners are, if you want to dabble in the transfer partners, or you can even just go do a co-branded card. Like you can go get your Southwest Rapid Rewards Priority and like a IHG Premier. Cool, done. Keep it simple. And then once you kind of learn about 524, you have some slots open up in 2 years and you can kind of dabble some more over there. So I think it gets weirdly complicated than it is, because there isn't no simple way to just jump into it, because you're going to make mistakes. But depending on the amount of research that you do and the amount of planning that you do and the amount of conversations who you talk to, could be whether it be just a simple tweak or having to reevaluate and redo your whole strategy. So honestly, it's kind of boils down to it depends. I know it's like a kind of a weak cop-out answer, but it just depends on how you want to travel. Because if it's just regular leisure travel, you're only traveling 1 to 2 times a year, do you really want to go all out on crazy things? Maybe not. So I'll leave it at that.
All right, so definitely. Yeah, it certainly can depend, and I did leave it sort of open-ended. Obviously the first thing you want to do is pick your partners, get a sense of, what's of interest to you, what you want to, where you want to go. Doesn't make sense to sign up for like I prefer hotels when you've never been to an I prefer hotel, but that Hyatt, IHG, Marriott, Hilton, you're always going to find something in those big four. Signing up for one of those, getting acquainted with them, knowing who the transfer partners are, going from there. I do think that getting a travel card, it's tough to say getting a travel card from one of to correspond with it is always a good idea, just because do you do the $95 card? I think you can start with like the $95 card from the Sapphire Preferred. Then you can start with a Strata Premier. Those are good gateways to get you started in the travel ecosystem, and you're going to need to transfer your points over to your preferred anyway. Other things, like I mentioned, there's like that $800 banked. You can always just take that as part of a welcome offer, buy points into your new preferred partner, and go from there and start building up your points that way. You have a quick $800 hit and part of a welcome offer to hit. But yeah, there's a bunch of different ways that you can approach it, but obviously pick your partners, start investing, build that plan A strategy, have a side quest available to you to make that work. I don't think I could have said better than my co-hosts have. So I'm going to end it there. So yeah, Thanks so much for that, guys. And RJ, if folks wanted to find you on the internet, where's the best place to do that?
Honestly, probably the Stack Your Points Discord most times. You can also find me at Do You Take Cards on YouTube.
Fantastic. Lani, if we wanted to find you on the internet, where's the best place for that?
Well, first I want to drop the disclaimer that I don't really hate you, Matt. That just made my head hurt. But then I didn't realize. Then Tariq actually provided me the epiphany that yes, I didn't realize it. He was that person like a year ago. So it was it in the end, even though I didn't enjoy all the detail you put in it, it was a good question. Now that I was like, yeah, that was Tariq. I just realized that. Anyway, you can find me also in the Stack Your Points Discord. I like to drop things in there just as much as my co-hosts do. But then you can find me on my YouTube channel, which is Call Me Lani, all one word, and Lani is spelled Lani.
Thank you, Lani. Tariq, best place to find you on the internet?
So you can find me just being completely dejected on my favorite college football team on Twitter. As a matter of fact, I'll be at their next home game and they're all black because it's a funeral to rest in peace of the season. Other than that, you can find me on the Stack Your Points Discord. I am pretty active in there. I like to talk to y'all and just see what y'all got to say. And then eventually, once I finally stop procrastinating, Reeks Rewards on YouTube, I've seen the number of subscribers go up, and I know they're getting antsy and they're not gonna be too keen for me to just, sit on my hands and not post anything. So videos soon on that.
Yeah, you can shortchange your Reeks Reward subscribers, but you can't shortchange our Stack Your Points podcast subscribers. So get on it.
Yeah, I threatened to strike. I don't think I can go through with it, but yeah, let's get on that.
Yeah, a Matt Clausen strike people would be doxing me and finding out where I stay and threatening to post a video so they can get their tidbits.
Please let me know. Don't do that. Anyway, you can find me on the Stack Your Points Discord as well. You can find me at my channel at Matt Clausen. I talk about credit card news. I give credit card opinions from time to time. I try to look at the whole board and see what happens. But anyway, if you like what we do here on YouTube, click the like and subscribe. If you want to leave us a comment, we will always check them and respond as best we can. If you want to join our Discord, there'll be a link for that in the description. You can leave us questions, comments, anything over there. It's a great little community that we're building. If you are listening to this on Saturday, the very long show, appreciate you. Drop us a 5-star on the podcatcher of your choice, wherever that may be. And thank you so much for this week. We will see you again soon.